How are you people? This is Brother Mike, and I'm broadcasting to you from my palatial studios here in beautiful Worcester, Massachusetts. And once again, it's a pleasure to come to you. And the subject that I want to bring up today, I'm kind of an opinionated individual. My primary topic as of late has been police brutality, but I predate this whole mess that's been going on by about a year and a half after having been assaulted by a police officer here in Worcester for calling 911. But I'm going to diverge a little bit from that subject this morning, and I want to talk to you about an experience that I had at the Worcester Public Library at Salem Square yesterday. And I hope you find it interesting. I like to go to the library. I kind of consider the library a sanctuary, a place where people can go to kind of get away from the mess that's out there in Worcester. And, read a book, read a newspaper, get some material, bring it home, that type of thing, just like everybody else likes to do at the library. Only I have noticed a trend at the library. There is something going on over there that I find quite insidious. And it has to do with the patrons. Now, we live in a community where there is a very stark problem regarding economics. If you go down the Worcester Center sometimes, you think you're on the set of the movie Grapes of Wrath. I mean, these people, they just appear to be so desperate, walking around with all their worldly possessions, in bags on their backs and, this type of thing, and homeless, and there's quite a few of them, and they do find sanctuary at the Worcester Public Library. Well, today's January the 14th. Yesterday, it was very cold here in Worcester. I think we got to about 13 degrees, and I'm a diabetic. And I was having like a little bit of low blood sugar, you know. So I figured, well, let me go up to the 7-Eleven. I'll get myself one of them $2 macaroni things, macaroni salad. And I had a little time to kill, so I said, let me go on over to the library and I'll have my macaroni and maybe, just spend a little time there. So I go over to the library and, sit down at the tables over by the cafe there. And I consume my macaroni salad, and after I consume the macaroni salad, I have a bad habit. I smoke cigarettes. I've been trying to get off of these cigarettes for a long time, but let me tell you, there is not a substance out there, in my opinion, and in my experience, as addictive as tobacco. And it's just really hard, for me to shake this thing. But I'm saying this to you because, eh, I sat there and being as cold as it was outside, I figured, well, let me roll myself a cigarette. I periodically will buy a pouch of tobacco. I'll go over to the owl shop sometimes and get some very nice cigarette tobacco there. But so I'm sitting there and, I'm rolling my cigarette, and I'm approached by a uniformed security guard, okay? Which, hey, brother Mike's got no problem with authority, but the only problem I have with authority is when it's not used properly. And I know they have a hard time managing these people that use the library as a form of sanctuary. There's thievery over there. There's been laptops stolen, and people upset by other people's behavior, because some of these people have mental health challenges. And being an employee of the library, it's probably difficult, to negotiate, that whole spectrum of personalities that come through there, and I can see where if you work there every day, you might get a little bit jaded, you might form an opinion about, who's who, based on your knowledge of the ways of the world. It's a very subjective conclusion, that you may come to when you look at some of these people. Because I've talked to some of these folks, and, I'm not going to hold it against them because they're poor. I'm not going to hold it against them because they have some kind of mental health issue or anything like that. You know what I mean? And I want to treat everybody equally, upon meeting them and give them the opportunity to disqualify themselves by their own behavior. I'm not going to prejudge them. Well, this is what happened to Brother Mike yesterday. I was prejudged at that library, because when I rolled up that cigarette, and I was going to go outside off of the library property because they don't want you smoking on the library property, and smoke this cigarette and go back inside and go about my business. But anyway, so here he comes, a uniformed security guard leans down and tells me that I cannot expose tobacco products in the library and be regarded as a wanted patron. Basically, this is what he told me. And I said, what? He says, yeah, we have a rule here where, you can't even show a tobacco product in the public library. And I told him, I says, I have no intention of smoking a cigarette inside the library if this is what you're getting to. My intention is to go outside and smoke it. Well, we can't allow you to, pull a pouch of tobacco out of your pocket and sit at our table and roll a cigarette here in the public library. And, I looked at it, I said, you know what? That is absolutely ridiculous. Because, hey, look, we got rights. And that library is a public trust. Those people that operate that library, they're doing it on our behalf. We're the taxpayers. We're the ones that take advantage of the library, and it's great that they have programs over there for us to enjoy. And for the most part, they do a good job. But I think what's happening over there is they're kind of freaking out a little bit about this issue of these people who patronize the library, who fall into a certain socioeconomic category, and they assign them real negative, qualities, and really, I think if they had their ways, their druthers, they'd rather not have those people in the library. Well, let me tell you, libraries have historically been a sanctuary for people like this. During the Depression, if it wasn't for the public libraries, there would have been a lot of people on the street, sick and even dying. I mean, and they do this at the Worcester Public Library. It's not much different from the Depression era, when people use the library as a sanctuary. But when I gave him this little bit of resistance, he went and got the head librarian. Her name, she's an interim head librarian. Her name is Tracy Ledger Hornby. Well, here comes this lady, Tracy Ledger Hornby. Now we're getting a little bit of a spectacle. I got a uniformed security officer and the head librarian looming over me at this table, informing me that, I can't roll a cigarette or expose a tobacco product within the public library. And, I said, there's just something about this, that just didn't sit well. So I said, well, what is the policy? Can you show me a policy that articulates this? Well, the woman couldn't show me a policy. What she did is she told me, it's not really a policy. It's really a personal preference. It's a preference. We would prefer that you not do it. And I told her in a nutshell, well, reasonable people can disagree. I consider myself a reasonable person. I consider her a reasonable person. We don't always have to agree. And when we don't, neither one of us needs to be demonized. Well, they demonized me over there yesterday. And I'm going to tell you, it hurt my feelings because I enjoy my library experience. I enjoy having a place where I can go to kind of get away, from a lot of the negativity that's in Worcester, and, enrich my mind, you know what I mean? And stimulate myself, with new ideas. This is what libraries are all about, Well, so I told her, I said, well, since this is not a policy, And since I'm not breaking any rules, I consider this to be harassment. And you're making a public spectacle of me. People are looking, oh, what's going on over there? Oh, they got another one, and I don't like being held up like that, for no good reason. When there's other people in that library they can go pick on, who are doing far worse things. So, I told her, I says, um, I'm going to finish rolling my cigarette. I'm going to go outside. I'm going to smoke this cigarette. And between now and then, I don't want to hear another word from you about your personal preference about what I'm doing. And that's it. And I got up and I went outside. So I get outside and the security guy kind of follows me outside, which I feel is a little bit insidious in itself, particularly, Brother Mike being an African American and being 64 years of age. I have had a lot of experiences of being profiled. I know when I'm being profiled. And this is what this whole matter was. It was a matter of them profiling me. But I'm not pulling the race card out here. I'm not saying they profiled me racially. I'm saying it's kind of like a new form of profiling. It's socioeconomic profiling. If you don't fall into a certain socioeconomic category, apparently, at the Worcester Public Library, you're going to be subject to strict scrutiny. Yeah, every move is going to be monitored, and they're going to be searching for something that they can use to, call you out, to identify you as an undesirable. Well, of course, the danger of that is, and, they have a majority white staff over there. And I think they all kind of fall into the same socioeconomic category, so their views of the ways of the world and, how they perceive things are very similar among themselves, and they don't embrace, the way other people view, their position in society and, their economic status, and what happens when that happens? People create prejudices, they start to manufacture prejudices against those types of people, and that's why we call for inclusion, racial diversity, economic diversity in particularly public institutions, so that there is a reflection of the entire community, within the ranks of the people that are managing these places, Well, apparently we don't have that at the public library. We got a very, a narrow bandwidth of the population managing and working at that place, and they bring their prejudices with them to work, and I can understand it, because I was over at the library one time last summer, and I had a beautiful bicycle, a Trek bicycle. I paid $325 for that bicycle, and I had it chained up outside in the at the public library. I come out there to get it, it's gone. Somebody stole my bicycle. So you're not talking to somebody that hasn't been directly affected by some of the negativity at that library, and somebody who hasn't formed opinions about some of these people that go there. But I'm not going to demonize them like they demonized me yesterday by holding me up to public ridicule, because I was rolling a cigarette. So anyway, I'm outside talking to the guy, and I think he was trying to make amends or something like that, And he goes, yeah, well, we have a lot of problems over here at the public library, And I told him, hey, don't blame me if, a lot of the people that come into this place have challenges, that make your job a little bit difficult, And don't put me in that category either, for some manufactured reason, Well, they come in here and they roll marijuana. We don't know if it's a cigarette or if it's marijuana. Oh, yeah, Brother Mike is going to go to the public library in downtown Worcester with a bag of marijuana and sit right in front of everybody, big as Billy be damned, and roll a joint, Yeah. So, I didn't appreciate that either, And he says, yeah, I was upstairs the other day, and there was a couple of people sitting at the tables up there, and they had a pile of marijuana on the table. He's like, you should have saw it. It was like a pile of marijuana on the table. You know, I kind of find that to be a little bit of an exaggeration because if I was a security guy and I saw somebody with a pile of marijuana on a table in a public library, I'd call the police on him. But, you know, he didn't mention that part, you know. Excuse me, I'll be right back. Yeah, thank you very much. Excuse me. But anyway, so, you know, then he says, you know, and they come in here and, you know, they leave, they roll their cigarettes and they leave tobacco all over the table. And then when I was talking to that woman, you know, after we sat, you know, she brought up the subject of me eating the macaroni, you know. Oh, we don't allow people to eat food in the library. Well, hey, look at all you got to do is go through that library, man. There's people all up and down each one of those floors eating food, you know. And I can see, they leave a mess and this and that. Hey, well, guess what? Brother Mike's mother taught him that you don't leave messes in places like that. You know, I kind of really found that personally insulting for her to even bring that up. That I would leave tobacco all over the table, leave food all over the place. You know what I mean? Brother Mike is not a slob, and I do not like being assigned that identity by somebody that's supposed to be managing a resource on my behalf, So that's another thing that really irked me. I kind of found that personally insulting, But anyway, so, back outside with the security guy, I told him, I says, until you can show me, a policy or a rule, don't ever come up to me again and, put me on Front Street in front of people at the public library because I'm doing something that you personally object to, So I just want to warn you, if, unless you're like one of these, rich people that use the library, one of these people that, is a little bit more mainstream, which really mean white, because I kind of find myself to be mainstream. Be careful over there because those people profile their patrons, and you can find yourself subjected to a uncomfortable degree of scrutiny based on the merest of behaviors that do not violate any kind of rules or policies over there, but that conflict with people's personal opinions about how people should conduct themselves within the library, So this is Brother Mike thanking you once again, for listening to me. I love you and have a great day, and be careful when you go over to the public library because you're being observed.